today, Islam today, this is his side. Water everywhere and water. This is all team. Why is this Islam? Why is this? Huh?
Sweat.
But why you sweat more than other guys?
Hard work. Ali push us today crazy. Ali is the coach. Ali, who are you?
No,
Doctor,
brother.
manager,
Assistant coach.
Coach, nutrition, who are you, bro? Tell people no. Tell people.
Has Ian any different than your past opponents? Because obviously he's very tall, he's very rangy, he can make the fight slow if he wants to. What do you make of his skill set?
His skills, I just have to run in this camp too much because I have to follow him because he runs too much. I know his game plan. We always see his fight, and he has same style always. But I will try to catch him, take him down. Just what I did with my all opponents.
He's done a lot of his camp, obviously, with Charles Oliveira. He's trained a lot. Is there anything Charles can tell him about you that you're worried about?
Yeah, Charles is gonna teach him how to tap fast. That's it.
Obviously.
Это является ошибкой для бойцов ездить на какие-то сборы за 2-3 месяца до боя, чтобы потянуть борьбу. Это, наоборот, играет злую такую ошибку, потому что человек едет на 2-3 месяца куда-то подготовиться и начинает верить в свою борьбу, и вот это потом не срабатывает. За 2-3 месяца.
Yeah, no, Ray, I think you nailed it. I think there's different types of strikers out there. There's guys that kind of lead with their power or their speed or their ability to put together combinations is what makes them a great striker. And I think what makes Ian Garry Machado so interesting is the fact that his striking is all predicated off of his footwork. And that is the key to success against someone like Islam Makhachev, who's trying to get into that clinch position. And it's one thing to be able to strike. It's another thing to be able to strike and move. And Ian does that extremely well. He's going to have to be on his bike repeatedly. And it's further complicated for Islam Makhachev because of that length that you talked about as well, Ray. This is a guy.
And I'm telling you right now, this fight for Islam Makhachev may be a lot harder than what people think. Given all of the accolades that Islam Makhachev has, it's easy to just dismiss Ian Garry and say, listen, he's got to just run right through him. Okay, you could send him to Dagestan or Georgia for 20 years and still forget all about it.
Send him 2-3 years Dagestan and forget.
Okay, because Islam Makhachev is the GOAT. He's going to take him down. The man's Irish. They don't wrestle in Ireland, for crying out loud. Well, guess what? He's a well-rounded mixed martial artist. He's 17-1. He had a very, very close fight with Shavkat Rakhmonov. Ended the fight threatening the rear naked choke. He beat the former champion, Belal Muhammad, that wrestled the life out of Leon Edwards, okay? So this is a real fight. Before you start to think that this is just going to be one-way traffic, I'm telling you, this is going to be a lot.
The Ian Garry, Islam Makhachev stuff is super interesting, and I think Ian is a very smart guy, and I kind of feel like if he's going all the way to Georgia, he's trying to tell us something. And if in fact he is trying to tell us that he is getting a title shot sometime in the spring after Ramadan, good on the UFC. I want to tip my cap to the UFC because they made the right call. Kamaru Usman should never be in consideration to fight for the belt in the year 2026. Not with his record. If he wins 1 or 2 more, great. God bless. What a comeback story. But there are guys like Ian, guys like Carlos Praches, guys like Michael Morales who deserve it far more. Title shots should not be lifetime achievement awards. And I think of all of them, if Shavkat's out, and he is, Ian should be the guy. So I hope that what he is saying isn't wolf tickets or anything. I hope that he is telling us the truth, and I hope they make that fight. And I say good on everyone involved for making that fight, if that is in fact the fight.
Islam Makhachev sent a shocking message to Ian Machado Garry and was pretty sassy about it. He didn't seem impressed at all. Ian, on the other hand, is in his own zone. He really thinks he can demolish Islam. Now the fight world is divided, with people strongly picking sides.
Speaking of your own career, we're obviously a couple weeks out from your title defense against Ian Machado Garry at Philly at UFC 330. How has camp been? How's preparation been? What do you make of Ian as an opponent?
Yeah, everything is going very well. We stay in the same gym, like last couple of fights we stay in New Jersey and training in Nick Cotton MMA. It's very nice gym. I have too many my brothers and friends and sparring partner with me. Almost all team is here. We're training together. Khabib is here, Javier is here, and we're training every day very hard to be ready.
And obviously, Dagestan and Ireland have a bit of history with Khabib and Conor. Obviously, Paul Hughes and Usman over in PFL. You're preparing for another Irishman yourself. What do you make of he as an opponent and kind of carrying on that rivalry between countries?
This is just like a regular opponent. It's nothing some between country, but still we have 2-0 now. It's gonna be 3-0.
Islam Makhachev had nothing but confidence when discussing Ian Machado Garry ahead of their UFC 330 title fight. The champion revealed that training camp had gone smoothly, with Khabib Nurmagomedov and the rest of his team helping him prepare in New Jersey. When asked about Garry as an opponent, Islam dismissed any suggestion that this was a special rivalry, saying he viewed the Irish contender as just another challenger. He even joked that Dagestan already leads Ireland 2-0 in major MMA rivalries, and predicted that after their fight, the score would become 3-0.
Has Ian any different than your past opponents? Because obviously he's very tall, he's very rangy, he can make the fight slow if he wants to. What do you make of his skill set?
His skills, I just have to run in this camp too much because I have to follow him because he runs too much. I know his game plan. We always see his fight, and he has same style always. But I will try to catch him, take him down, just what I did with my all opponents.
He's done a lot of his camp, obviously, with Charles Oliveira. He's trained a lot. Is there anything Charles can tell him about you that you're worried about?
Yeah, Charles is gonna teach him how to tap fast. That's it.
Obviously,
Makhachev also explained why he is not expecting many surprises from Garry inside the octagon. According to the champion, Garry has shown the same style throughout his UFC career, so his team knows exactly what to prepare for. Islam joked that he has had to do extra running in training camp because Garry moves around so much, but he remains confident that he will eventually catch him, secure the takedown, and impose his grappling just as he has against previous opponents. He even laughed off the idea of Charles Oliveira helping Garry prepare, joking that Oliveira's biggest lesson would simply be how to tap quickly.
Firstly, again, I have nothing but respect for him. I think he's absolutely cemented himself as the best fighter on the planet right now, and until he's beaten, he holds that status. What he's done in this career, in his career and over the last decade in the sport has been second to none. A two-weight world champion, pound for pound #1, and on the verge of breaking the longest consecutive win streak in UFC history. It's nothing but exceptional. However, I've always said to you from the first time you spoke, well before I was in the UFC, to be the best, you have to beat the best. There is nobody else I would want to beat to prove that I'm the champion of the world. There is nobody else I'm more excited to fight and test myself against than this dominance in Islam Makhachev. He's earned that title as the pound for pound champion, at the pound for pound #1 on the planet right now. That's the guy I want to take out. To me, to make sure that it's undeniable, when I beat him, I'm the best welterweight on the planet, and arguably the #1 pound for pound fighter.
Ian also made it clear that he admires Islam Makhachev's skill and talent, as well as what he has achieved, calling him the best fighter in the world. The reason why Garry considers Islam as an amazing fighter was stated by Garry himself when he mentioned how Makhachev's resume is simply incredible and how he is a 2-time division champion and pound for pound #1 fighter, as well as someone who can create history in UFC. But it is also clear that the reason for wanting this fight is these achievements, since Garry wants to prove that no one is better than him.
Islam Makhachev said he's ready for Ian Garry, said he's going to have to chase him. Ian Garry runs the whole time. Is that true? Is that how you got? Do you think of Garry that way? Do you think of Garry as a guy that runs the whole time? I would trust Islam as world champion. I would trust him as next opponent. I would trust that he has sat down and watched this. He said he was very familiar with Ian Garry. Said we watch him all the time. Ian Garry runs the whole time? Really? I had not noticed that. And it's a very interesting detail if he does. Now make sure, if you're talking about Ian Garry does a good job of moving, yes, he moves the whole time. But they didn't say moving, they said running, and running specifically, when we use it as a vernacular in this space, means he goes backwards. He's running from you. He's running. Running away from a fight.
Chael Sonnen reacted with surprise after hearing Islam Makhachev describe Ian Machado Garry as a fighter who runs throughout his fights. While Sonnen said he trusts a champion like Islam to study his opponents closely, he admitted he had never viewed Garry that way. In Sonnen's opinion, there is a major difference between constantly moving and actually running away from exchanges. He explained that in MMA, calling someone a runner usually means they are backing up to avoid engagement rather than simply using intelligent footwork. That distinction made Islam's comments particularly interesting because Sonnen had not previously noticed Garry fighting that style.
Guys that run away from fights are really hard to take down. In wrestling, as a matter of fact, the wrestling that you see in your schools or even the international styles that you might see at the Olympic Games, you must, per the rules, stand in one spot or go forward. You cannot go backwards. They'll call you. They'll call you for stalling. They'll call you again and they'll give a point. They'll call you enough times, they'll disqualify you and end the match. Like, it's a really big deal. No wrestling can take place if one of the two guys is going backwards. They've both got to be in their spot or trying to gain ground by going forward. And you see how inevitably impossible that would be, like two guys coming forward at the same time that makes one of them go back. Yeah, that's how wrestling works. You get called for stalling, sure. But it's so, like, if you're wondering wrestling defense and how do I deal with these wrestlers, well, there is actually a couple of answers that we don't ever want anyone to know because it would ruin the sport, but one of them is backing up. Just like clenching a guy when you hit him is illegal in boxing. The reason it's illegal is it's so wildly effective. It would stop boxing from happening.
Sonnen went on to explain why backing up can actually be an effective way to frustrate elite wrestlers. Drawing on his wrestling background, he noted that moving backward is discouraged in amateur wrestling because it makes takedowns much harder to complete. He suggested that if Garry really does spend large portions of the fight retreating, Islam may have to chase him rather than pressure him in his usual fashion. Even so, Sonnen wasn't convinced that this is actually how Garry fights and said he would need to rewatch his previous bouts before agreeing with Islam's assessment.
One of those two things aren't true. But I don't know which one it is, and it makes it interesting. And if Ian does play that game of cat and mouse with that long reach that he has, right? Is it enough to say that Ian's going to upset Islam? Boy, Islam's pretty special. I don't know that it is, but is it enough to make it interesting? It made it interesting when Ian took on Rachmanov. Ian had a plan, and that fight wasn't boring. And that fight wasn't just about Rachmanov chasing him down to try to get a hold of him. I don't know that Islam's assessment is accurate, but I'm not confident that he's wrong. Apparently, I'm going to need to go and watch some Ian Garry tape, see if I'm seeing what Islam's seeing. Apparently, I'm going to have to get back.
Sonnen finished by admitting he still wasn't sure who was right. He said Islam's comments had convinced him to go back and study Garry's fights again because he had never noticed the behavior the champion described. While he acknowledged that Garry's movement and reach could make the fight competitive, he stopped short of predicting an upset. Instead, Sonnen concluded that Garry's style could create interesting moments, but he still wasn't convinced it would be enough to overcome a champion as complete and accomplished as Islam Makhachev.
Before I start making any picks or how I think this fight's gonna go, I need to go back and see Ian Garry fight some wrestlers, see his takedown defense, see his wall work, his get-ups. I need to see a little bit more, just refresh my memory on his grappling, because obviously Islam's gonna drown him, I think, but I need to see how good he is in those positions.
He's not bad defensively.
He's long. He's
took
tall.
him down, right?
Shotgun took him down, I think, but he had a lot of attempts. I think he took him down twice. His defense isn't bad, and his footwork is, I think, what keeps it amazing. But he's never grappled with a guy like Makhachev that has the sweeps, the inside trips, the upper body.
Dustin Poirier admitted he wanted to revisit Ian Machado Garry's previous fights before making a final prediction, but he still leaned toward Islam Makhachev. Based on what he remembered, Garry has good takedown defense and excellent footwork, yet Dustin doesn't think he has ever faced a grappler with Islam's level of wrestling, trips, and control. He believes Makhachev's ability to dominate those positions is what separates him from the rest of the division.
Offensive. No, he can use the footwork to keep the distance, but he has to win the rounds. And you have to land some kind of shots. You have to do some kind of damage. You can't just run the whole time throwing a jab and expect to win the round against a guy who's pushing you against the fence.
I think I agree. I think that's the best chance he has, though, is to run and frustrate Islam into
making a bad mistake,
bad shots, bad takedown offense, also bad throat strikes on the feet because you're overreaching. Because Islam is used to dominating. He wants to run and go in there and just take him down, submit him, or beat him up on the feet. And if this fight is just slow.
Poirier added that Garry's best chance is to stay on the outside, frustrate Islam with movement, and make him overcommit. However, he emphasized that simply moving isn't enough because Garry still has to land meaningful strikes to win rounds. Drawing from his own experience against Makhachev, Dustin said the biggest factor will be takedown defense. If Islam starts getting takedowns early, he expects the champion to take over the fight and eventually find the finish. Chris Weldman believes Ian Garry's movement and footwork could create some early problems for Islam Makhachev. He explained that Garry is comfortable fighting at a slow pace and using his range to avoid exchanges, which could force Islam to work harder than usual. Even so, Weldman doesn't believe Garry can spend the entire fight moving backward without landing meaningful offense. Weldman ultimately predicted that Islam's pressure and wrestling would become the difference as the fight progressed. While Garry's size, reach, and movement could help him during the opening rounds, Weldman expects fatigue to make defending takedowns much more difficult later in the fight. In his view, once Makhachev begins chaining his wrestling together, the champion should be able to control the fight. Carlos Prates describes the way Islam probably intends to win the match. He believes that it will be a fight based on takedowns and positional dominance, but he is also wondering whether it will be that kind of dominant fight where grinding plays an essential part. As far as Carlos sees it, Ian will still have chances to stand up and start anew, thus forcing Islam to start again and again instead of keeping him down for a long time. There is one crucial factor Carlos mentioned. Islam is very hard to beat via scoring. The discussion now turns to the gap in size and style that weighs more heavily. Carlos brings up how Ian would definitely be going up against a taller, more physically powerful man than he is used to, especially since the guy is not only tall but also very well-rounded, like Islam. He does not disregard him entirely though, noting the weapons Ian possesses in the form of his jab, his footwork, and especially in taking the back position in case there are scramble situations. This becomes an important point, as it means that Ian poses a threat of back control for Islam. At the end of the day, this fight really comes down to two different mindsets. Islam Makhachev believes you can't learn real wrestling in just a few months. He's been doing it his whole life, and he trusts that experience. He thinks short training camps in places like Georgia won't make a big difference when the cage door closes. For him, this is about years of work, not quick fixes. Ian Machado Garry sees it differently. He believes he can improve fast, make adjustments, and be ready for anyone. He's confident in his striking and thinks that if he can keep the fight standing, he has the advantage. He's willing to travel, train, and do whatever it takes to prepare. So if this fight happens, it's simple. Can Islam's lifelong wrestling control the fight? Or can Garry stop it and make it a stand-up battle? Let us know in the comments below. Who do you think wins?